Welcome to Silicon Valley Impact, where business insight meets startup innovation. And now the man, the myth, the legend, Brian Sparks! Happy New Year, Brian.
Happy New Year. Great to have you back.
Hold on a second. Pause for applause.
They're going crazy. Yeah. Let them have their moment. All right. Yeah, what an audience. Mom, sit down.
Yeah. Wow, they're so excited. It's 2025, and they're as excited as I am.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, 2025, Season 2, Episode 2. Excited about what's to come for this year. Looking back, Brian, but we're going to keep what's worked over the last year, and we use that word worked loosely. But I'm excited. We've got some great guests. We've had some great guests. And I want to remind everybody, I got to do my thing, Brian, which you don't like.
No, I love it.
Okay.
I absolutely love it.
All right.
Yeah.
Welcome to Silicon Valley Impact, everybody. I'm your host, Brian Sparks. The purpose of this show is to have honest conversations about what it takes to build great businesses and communities so that you can make an impact in your own. We'll work on that, Brian, moving forward.
Well, now that we have John in the studio today, you know, I always want it to be delivered with heart, with feeling. I want it to have depth and meaning.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think you're just reading it. Like, I don't
Brian.
want to be a bad guy
let's
here.
make this real.
Yeah.
I mean, part of the book is about being authentic, right?
Yeah.
So let's hear the real, authentic Brian Sparks.
Yeah, let's get this.
Should I do it?
Yeah.
Alex, do you think I should just lead into
Just
it?
lead right into it. Go for it.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome to Silicon Valley Impact, everybody. I'm your host.
We'll get there, folks.
Everything is going to be done with depth and extreme feeling today.
Well, just because I'm looking at it doesn't mean I'm not leading with heart. I mean, I love being here.
Take three.
Right, Alex. Take three.
All right, we got a little bit of housekeeping, right, before we get started. So
let's do this.
One thing that we wanted to talk about was what's happening on January 28th.
Yeah.
At Gardenia here in Los Gatos. Do you want to give some details about that?
Let's do that. Yeah. Okay. So we are kicking off the Venture House, what we're calling the Venture House, but it's at Gardenia's, which is here in Los Gatos. We are creating a hub for founders and funders to come together to accelerate and get access very quickly. That seems to be one of the biggest pain points, I think, as Alex will attest to, getting access to those resources in order to scale your venture. So that is going to be happening January 28th at 5:30 p.m. In the show notes, there will be a link for you to register, but it is limited, so sign up quickly. You will meet a ton of people who can help you launch your venture, scale your venture, or lead you in the right direction. So we'll be doing a number of events there ongoing monthly, so stay tuned for that. All right, with that being said, Brian, let's get into our show today. We've got... Wait, you got more?
No. I thought there was something else we talked about that, but we'll get to it later. Alex had something also that he wanted to plug, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have Alex Hult here and my longtime friend and mentor, John Baird. John,
how many years, Brian? It's like, oh my gosh, neighbors for lots of years.
Yeah. So you were actually, little history here. This about 5 years ago was called Silicon Valley Influence, and it was just a LinkedIn Live Zoom call with Lisa and I, and you were my first guest. I think, yeah.
I do remember that interview, but I didn't realize I was the first guest.
Yeah, well, I had to have it. I had to have you as my first guest because you're one of my favorite people. But you've done a lot in the startup ecosystem. So for those of you who don't know you and love you like I do in our audience, give a really quick intro about what you've been up to. Yeah,
right. I'm actually in a time of transition. So I've just sold my second executive coaching company. So my love is coaching startup founders and executives in all kinds of different companies. So I started at San Jose State back over 30 years ago, taught there in leadership and organizational development for 17 years, and then started my first company on early work at Apple. So I had the opportunity when Steve Jobs came back to coach that very first iPhone team. So we could talk more about that, but what an experience that was. I talk about that in the book. Yeah. But my transition now is interesting because I've sold my second company, which is called Velocity, and we coach founders of new ventures. So we have 26 coaches worldwide, and now I've transitioned out It's been hard because I'm actually transitioning clients. And these clients have been like my children. It's like, I want to see them through their experiences. They're in the early stages of their journey. I want them to be another DoorDash. DoorDash is one of the clients, and we started with them when they were very, very young. The team was small, took them through IPO. So in a way, I'm not going to be able to see these folks through that. And so I love coaching. I think I'm a teacher and a coach, and I'm writing a new book. So I'm actually going back to San Jose State to be a faculty in residence for 2 years, and then I'm going to do a lot of writing.
Nice. And so this is your second book. The first book was Leading with Heart with you and Edward Sullivan.
Yeah.
Edward was on the show. In fact, he was, I believe, the only one who was zoomed in at the time. But yeah, he was on the show.
Yeah,
I think
Edward's fun.
He was a lot
really
of fun.
Yes.
But yeah, you have a lot of history of Silicon Valley that you've put in the book in terms of leadership and emotional intelligence and what it takes to be a great founder.
Yeah.
And so we'll dive into that, but I want to bring in Alex, who is a legend in Los Gatos, but I met you last year, and Matt, buddy, we've connected a few times. You've got a great event coming up. You've got a startup. So much going on in your life. I don't know if we could do just an hour show with both of you, but give a quick introduction, Alex, for those of you who are just meeting you for the first time.
Well, thanks for that introduction. I don't know about legend, but very close to my heart here in Los Gatos. It's my first place I moved when I came to Silicon Valley in 2012. So I fell in love in 2010 when I moved to the U.S. after my hockey career. So if you back up a little bit more, I played pro hockey for 10 years, was drafted by the Sharks, but ultimately came to the U.S. to have fun and pursue some other activities in Las Vegas, and play poker for a living for a while. And did a lot of cool things. Ultimately fell super hard in love with this girl. She's now my wife. We have 3 kids. We just had my first son about 3 months ago.
Congratulations.
And thank you. So now, ultimately, here we are in Silicon Valley in 2012. I opened my first restaurant here in Los Gatos 2013, which was called Hults, my last name. So kind of fine dining, farm to table, Scandinavian flair. And then opened up a second concept called Flights in 2017, started in Campbell, and then came here to Los Gatos, did Mountain View, Burlingame, Las Vegas, San Jose out at the Sportsplex, and then we bought Mountain Charlie. So I've done a lot of different things out here. And in that journey, learned a lot about the restaurant industry and found a lot of flaws in the technology side. And my network of very high profile CEOs for big companies, kept impressing me with all these things that they were accomplishing. And I was like, I know I can do something with this. Like, I see the whole, I have all these relationships. I know what needs to be done. I just need to find someone that can actually build this. And got really lucky and partnered up with this guy, Zia Hasnan, who was head of product at NVIDIA, built a bunch of cool products from Motorola back in the days, and have ultimately been a CEO for 8 years, building his own startup before we joined forces. And we set out to ultimately solve the ecosystems problem in the restaurant space. So we're just now ready to launch this huge product that's going to really change the industry. I really believe that. And we're holding our pre-launch event on the 29th, which you will be at, Brian, and you're welcome as well.
Yeah, that's going to be really exciting because you've gone all in, not only with this great event that's coming up on the 29th, and you can give some information about that as we move on in the show, but you have not only, you opened up all these restaurants, you've now, correct me if I'm wrong, you've sold most, if not all of this, to go all in. Is that correct?
Yeah, being a poker player, going all in is kind of part of the game. So I went all in on hockey, all in on poker, and all in on restaurants. And now I feel like I'm really onto something huge with this tech startup. I'm feeling it, and I feel like I have a very good sense of business. And I needed to clean up my life and get rid of some of these restaurants because it takes a lot of work, and really be 100% focused on this big opportunity to launch this product.
It's so interesting how the new book that I'm writing is called Tough Enough, and we're looking at leaders like Bezos and Jobs and Meg Whitman and all kinds of men and women who have actually made a difference in the world, financially successful. But there's a characteristic there that's really in common, and that is that they really have something big and bold they want to do, and they're obsessed with it. So I'd love to know, I have a question for you, where did the obsession for this idea come to give up actually, businesses to actually put yourself right into that, which is a characteristic of a tough leader, I think.
I appreciate that. I think I've always been like very focused on achieving big things. Like that was kind of my big purpose in life. I really wanted to make a difference. And I saw the holes in the ecosystem in the restaurant space, a lot of the struggles from my restaurant owner friends. It's very hard. A lot of restaurants go out of business and it's a broken system. The minimum wage going up, the food costs are going up, everything's going up. And like literally you can't run a profitable business anymore in today's setup. So I wanted to change that and fix that, and that's what we've done.
Yeah.
John, so you asked a great question because oftentimes you hear the need for founders to be successful. They need to have a passion.
Yeah.
But really, if you break that down, when you said obsession, I think, and what I'm hearing from Alex is he has this emotional connection that allows him to feel the pain. And I really think that all great ideas come from a starting place of pain. And the love for the solution, but ultimately to solve that pain point. And so there's this high level of EQ in these leaders, and so in your journey of coaching high performing leaders, those who lead with heart, are these some of the characteristics that you often see with great leaders? This emotional intelligence that they know that, hey, there's a pain here, and I'm the one to stand on this mountain.
I think there isn't a leader that I've worked with that hasn't worked through some pain, some adversity, their stories. I mean, as an executive coach, you get into their lives. I mean, in some ways, even though I'm a business coach and I help scale businesses, and I like that part of it, I like taking companies public, you do get to know their stories. And there's a lot of pain in some stories as well. And I think, I find that if these leaders have something to prove, like it was a tough life, a tough childhood, trauma is often characteristic of some of the people that I've worked with as well. A lot of that drives behavior. And so I find that that's very characteristic. And if you can help them identify it, name it, talk about it. Even as I coach people, I'll say, talk about your story. You don't have to tell all the details, but your story is why you're here. It's why this product is the way it is. And it connects with people, because that emotional intelligence connection, as you're talking to all hands meetings or people, they know you have a story that it comes from some place of real passion.
And you almost look for that, because you talk about in the book how the leaders who are aware of that or become aware of it through the due diligence process, the growth process, if that's absent, you often will question, like, where is this coming from, and is the energy sustainable? But what you're identifying in Alex, or talking with Alex about, is there's this innate level that has driven you your whole life to win, not just win, but solve the problem, because you're trying to solve it within yourself.
It's like the hockey. It'd be interesting to talk about hockey and swimming. For me, I was a high school and college swimmer, and I look back and I think my coaches that I had, the discipline for just training, because swimming is one of those things you have to train, 3 times a day, if you're really competitive. How did hockey impact your sort of journey as a leader, right? How did it play into that?
I think in every way, right? Like from a very young age, I knew that I wanted to be the best hockey player in the world. And I was, I think, 13 or 14 when I had a summer 10-week break and 252 workouts. So if you break that down,
oh my gosh,
it's like
talk about
2.5 times per day, 7 days a week. It was like intense. That math doesn't actually add up, but anyways,
we get the scope.
The idea is
it was like 6 o'clock, go for a run, 10 o'clock, stick handling and shooting, 2 o'clock gym, and then stretching and recovery at night. Like it was every day. And I think you grow character from that, and then it kind of shapes you. Like I even try sometimes, like my wife is like, you need to like relax. You can't keep going, like you're going to burn out. And I can't. I try. Like I literally like go to therapy. I like go on walks, I pray, I do all kinds of things to try to settle the beast or whatever you call it, like, but I can't calm down. So when normal people go to bed, I still have 4 or 5 hours at night in the tank, and that's when I'm the most effective. From like 9 o'clock to 2 a.m., I'm a racehorse.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think you and I were emailing the other night at 1 a.m. I was in Vegas, and I think you were there too, and we were emailing.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever want to settle the beast, because what I'm finding in this book, Tough Enough, which is really all about leaders who don't settle the beast, right? I mean, and there are trade-offs for that, trade-offs in health and the way people are treated. But for them, the obsession with the innovation, the idea, the product, whatever, is just all-encompassing. So maybe it's taming it a little bit, managing the beast, but you never really settle. It's always there. And I think leaders that I find are just continually transforming cultures and organizations. There's always a new beast.
That's my challenge. That's what I'm working on, is like when I reach a goal or accomplish something, I can only be happy in that moment for like 30 minutes. And then
30
I'm on
minutes
to the next
of satisfaction.
It's very frustrating. My wife is like, sit down, enjoy this.
Enjoy
like,
it,
let's be in this moment and celebrate. And my brain already goes to the next thing, and it's just how it is.
I mean, the joy is really in the product. It's seeing people react to it. I also think there's a lot of risk. I mean, by putting everything, selling flights, I mean, there's a risk there, right? But I find the risk is like, unless you can take a risk, both the companies that I started were risky. I was at San Jose State teaching. It was comfortable. It was easy. I could have stayed there forever. But yet I wasn't satisfied. I wanted to bring leadership practices to young companies and founders, et cetera. So I took a risk financially in the very beginning. And so interesting to talk about the risk. And I don't know whether you think about that or not.
I do. So like financial risk, especially like being spending a lot of time playing poker and then like going into restaurants, which is high risk. And then now basically I didn't have to work. I could just be content. The restaurant group was making a lot of money. I didn't need to do this. Like I could settle down and relax and, make good money. But it's not about money. It's about making a difference in the world and really accomplishing something great. And that's what I'm here to do.
John, I noticed something that Alex said earlier, and I'm listening to a previous guest who said something similar. Last week we had Bill Reichert on from Pegasus Ventures. And when him and Guy Kawasaki started their venture, his mindset was, we wanted to be the best in the world. And I heard Alex say that. There's this very specific pain on one level that's very focused, but then there's this global perspective of like, I'm not just trying to, even though the win is now, but there's this very big awareness of like, it's the world. And you use that, Alex, that distinction of like, I wanted to be the best in the world. So do you find that contrast? And I want to kind of dive into Leading with Heart and go into the new book, but a little bit. But do you see that contrast as well? And you talk about the beast. It seems like it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, there's these things that can cause problems. It comes from a problem, but at the same time, it could be a superpower. Do you see that characteristic?
No, when I think about that, I often think about Steve Jobs, his desire to be the best. Now, remember the story of Steve Jobs, right? I mean, he got ousted out of Apple, went and did Pixar and Next, and then came back to Apple and reinvented the new Apple. So he had a lot to prove in a lot of ways. But he wanted to bring his best. He was very competitive. He wanted to be the best. He was always competing against Microsoft, and he created that competition, even that sort of vying for getting the best ideas, even within his own teams. So I love that part of leadership. And it's very interesting because Steve was one who had the ideas, but the devil's in the details for him as well. The way the plug fit into the phone, the way the interface between the different products at Apple was all Steve Jobs. He was very concerned about where he zoomed in and zoomed out. I love that concept. I don't know if, Alex, that's one you think about, but he knew what things he needed to be involved in, and he took his products back when they weren't right. And then he zoomed out and gave Tim Cook and lots of others the opportunity to build the hiring, the culture, et cetera. But he never lost track of what he was really good at. I continually coach the concept of what are you zooming in about? What are you zooming out about? And which things do you not want to get? As your company grows and scales, you get sometimes farther away from the product. And yet you're the founder, you invented the product, you had the idea. So I continually think a little bit about the mix between being the strategic leader, but also tactically, operationally getting it done, which you probably can connect with, right?
Yeah, I'm like a little bit different in how I lead. I believe in servant leadership. I try to never ask my employees to do things that I wouldn't be willing to do. So like when I was starting off in the restaurant stuff, I was literally doing dishes, and they were like, "What are you doing?" Like I rolled up my sleeve on my suit jacket and banged out dishes with the dishwasher.
You got right in there with that.
And like that gives you so much respect from the rest of your team. So when you ask them, "Hey, the bathroom's not up to par," like they're like, "No problem, Alex, I got it." And I think that, you know, now into tech, same thing, is like my job is to make sure that these people that are smarter than me are having all the tools they need, can execute, and I can give them guidance and make them better. That is literally what I've seen from the best coaches in my hockey career. Is like the best coaches are making every player better. And it doesn't matter if it's the worst player on the team or the best player on the team. It's about getting them all to believe the same thing, same direction, and bringing the best out of them.
Being for a moment that dishwasher, John, do you see, but there's a vulnerability in leading, right? Because you're modeling first, and oftentimes they don't do what Alex is talking about. They just direct. They don't direct.
Or they control.
Right? Yeah. And so what's the softer part of this? Because there's there's intensity in these winners and these leaders like Alex. There's this intensity, but there's this very softer side of leadership. Like I'll do it first. Like I'll clean the dishes. Like I'll do it. When you think of, you know, Steve Jobs and these other leaders like Alex in leading with heart, what are some of the top of mind characteristics that our audience can start to think about? Because ultimately we want them to read Leading with Heart in your new book, which we'll talk about in a minute. What are some of these top of mind characteristics that you look for in these leaders, starting with Leading with Heart?
Well, I think Alex kind of said it. You really want to begin by hiring good people. And that's so critical. And we can talk a lot about coaching circles or coaching groups, or even, Alex, connecting yourself with somebody who actually brings another side to the business, right? I mean, some of the best founders that I've worked with that lead with heart actually complement each other. They actually bring out the best in each other. They actually connect because they bring one thing, the other founder brings another. I think the critical piece there is really helping people be at their best. So if you hire really good people, and I work a lot with get the right people on the team, right? And then you can be the servant leader if you hire good people and help them be at their best, help them to grow, help them to figure out what the goal is. I think leadership is really, you can lead with heart when it's clear where you're going. If there's clear direction and the there is clear, the why, what you're doing is, people have signed up for this, they're excited about it, and you hire good people on that team, you can begin to develop them, have them be at their best, complement each other, and begin to grow. And so leading with heart is a lot about building good trust and transparency on teams. So I would say most of the people that I coach in leadership, I also do their team building. So, and Brian, I know I think you've done team building, right?
I've dabbled,
Dabble a little bit team building. But how do you get teams to be transparent, to be open? How do you build trust? And so leading with heart is about helping people be at their best, creating a climate where people can actually be honest and transparent. And that's not always the case. It's very hard sometimes to get people to be honest and transparent.
What are some of the biggest barriers to getting people to let down their guard? Because in Silicon Valley and the world, whether you're coming into Silicon Valley or going, there's this competition that kind of drums up imposter syndrome. And to kind of let down that mask and let down your guard, be a little bit vulnerable and say, hey, I need help, or I don't know about this, or go into a board meeting and say, hey, I don't know, or go to an investors meeting through due diligence and say, I don't know that. it's not the norm. But so how do you do that within the team or as an individual?
Yeah, I think we coach that a lot. It's like you've got to be vulnerable yourself. You've got to be able to say, I was part of that problem. As a leader, I did not. And if you can sort of create that norm for transparency and openness and be able to get people to also share what they're responsible for, you can create that right climate. We have this concept, Brian, maybe you know about this one, but the right hand around the table is what's being said. The left hand is what's being thought, but not being spoken. So we have this concept when we work with teams where we say we want to hear left hands because the most effective teams are disruptive. You want to hear what people have to say that's different than the grain. So I just had a CEO that I was coaching where I observed his team meeting. And I left thinking, no one disagreed with each other. That is not a functional team. I wanted to hear some left hands, which is, what are you thinking but not saying? I don't want to hear that when people walk out of the room or go to the restroom or whatever. I want to hear it in the room. So we'll say, who has a left hand? Which is a great way of saying, who has a comment that goes against the grain? So you can help create norms for openness and transparency through left hands and getting people to be honest and accepting responsibility for things that they were accountable for.
That's an interesting point, I will say, because a lot of our development team is in Islamabad, where the culture is very much more like hierarchy. You listen, you follow, you get fired, and like they're very desperate for their jobs. It's not as easy as it is here in the US, right?
Yeah.
So one of my biggest challenges with the team was like, I want to hear everyone's opinion. We don't, like, this is what I say and this is what we're going to do. Like, I never lead like that. To me, it's very important, like, best idea wins, always. So it doesn't matter if it's the first greenest person on the team that comes with an idea. If it's the best idea, that's what we're going to do. And it's very hard to create that kind of atmosphere where people feel open and that they're willing to step out and let that left hand speak. It's very important.
You have
important.
to model the way. I think you have to be vulnerable, and I think, Brian, you have to model that yourself. When you're talking about ways to actually solve a problem, say, I was responsible for that, and I'll take responsibility. The next time we introduce that, Steve Jobs did this thing where he had these debriefs at the end of a product launch, and it was a postmortem. He called them postmortems. And it was all around what worked and what didn't work and what can we learn the next time. I mean, he created that climate for people to take responsibility.
So it wasn't this cascade of like, oh, I love that and this, and you're constantly leveling up. Brian, I seen you over there chomping at the bit.
Well, I just want to point out that from what I've seen and heard and when I talk with people, the point where people get stuck is if they're in an organization or in a team where the leadership does not embrace this philosophy and something's broken or something's wrong and they have not been given permission to speak up, and therefore they keep their thoughts to themselves, and that becomes the toxic and pervasive culture that they live in, and those teams tend to make people very unhappy. Is there any other? I mean, what? Like, I feel really bad. There's a lot of these people in this valley who get stuck, and I hear these stories all the time.
And we talk about them a lot in the book.
Oh, is
a lot
that right?
about toxic cultures and teams that are just like you described, Ryan. I think you start with your own team. I don't know. There are cultures that are much more hierarchical in nature. Just in Amazon, for example, very successful company. We talk about them in the new book. But Amazon is not a culture for everybody. I mean, it's very interesting. Amazon people, like Apple, it's a very hard culture. It's very tough, right? So you have to kind of decide. DoorDash is a little Amazonian, I would say, but a little softer in nature because Tony Xu is a different kind of a leader. But I think you sign up for a certain kind of a culture because of the product, because of the way you work. And so lots of people, Brian, will leave companies once they hire in because it just doesn't fit their sense of values and how they want to contribute.
Maybe that's just the option that's available.
That option is there. I mean, we do change management and we try to change teams, but it starts at the top. It starts with the founder and the culture. Those are hard things to really change.
Well, do you think culture is going to happen? And when it goes wrong, the employees are going to create their little pods. And half of them are over here, half of them are over here, because we naturally are built for relationship. So what you then have is politicking within bigger organizations if the leader does not design it consciously. I mean, is this true, or am I just...
That's absolutely true, Brian. I mean, that's for sure. And what's interesting is, to me, I just wonder over and over and over again, why wouldn't the person who is in charge of leadership, who's at the top, right? Why would they not want to know what's being discussed and decided in those subgroups, right? Like those little factions. Like, why wouldn't they want to know what's being talked about? That's just so fascinating to me.
Yeah, and being open to what's
Hearing
contrary.
what they have to say.
You got to be open to what's contrary to what you believe, just so you can process that. Well, let's take our break. We'll dive into that in the second half of our show. We'll also talk about John's new book. We'll also talk about Alex's event on the 29th. We got a lot more to go. All right, we're back, and let's keep the ball rolling. During our break, we were talking about a few different things, but John, we're talking a little bit about the success of leading with heart, but also now round 2, the new book.
The new book, yes.
And what we were talking about during the break is you opened up with this idea of being in transition, and whether you're selling a company like you did, and congratulations again, second company sold. A lot of people decide I'm just going to retire and enjoy life. Others, the transition is unexpected and they can go into depression, but there's an identity shift. You've decided to continue to create. So your transition, a lot going on. Talk a little bit about closing that loop. Like, what are you doing within this transition? And talk a little bit about this upcoming book.
So I think my transition was very intentional. I mean, I love learning. I love growing as a person. I love thinking about leadership. I love watching leaders in action, studying them. And it's been my whole life academically, but also as a coach. But I really wanted to slow down and not have the everyday coaching, because startup founders, it's every day. I mean, most of the people that I work with, I had a 24/7 part of the contract, which is they could call me anytime. And when you're coaching young founders of startups, it's like you need to be available. It's almost like you're a therapist on call, because the coaching works best when they're in the moment right there and they're experiencing this board call that they had that didn't go well, or an employee that's causing difficulties. You coach the best in those moments. So I really wanted to slow that down and yet still be intentional about creating something different. So we could talk more about this, but I've actually built a clone. I have an AI clone.
You have an agent.
Is
it an agent? Am I using that right? I don't know. Tell me more.
Well, the clone is, I hired an intern last summer from San Jose State who took everything I've written and published and spoken on, thousands and thousands of words, put them into Delphi, which is a clone, and it's called Ask John. And so I'm looking right now I've had so many people that have said, what do I do when I have my first meeting with my team? How would I actually structure an agenda? Ask John. So I'm on video, and my words are there. So for one whole summer, I taught the clone. There were things the clone said I didn't like, so I would add to it. And now I have a product. It's interesting, Alex. I have a product now. So I am always reinventing myself in some way. I'm always disrupting myself. My secret to transition has been start a company, and then I sold it, had a new idea, work with startup founders, and now I have this idea of being able to kind of share ideas about leadership in a very quick form, because people want quick answers. But the answers are very framed with my philosophy and my ideas, and the things. Leading with heart is in the clone.
Oh, interesting.
Is the clone a subscription? Is it subscription based?
Well, it's interesting, Brian. Right now, I'm testing it. It's testing out really, really well. I haven't decided yet. And there's a part of me who just wants to give it away. And then I have all these people saying, oh my God, you're going to give it away? You're not going to charge for it? I said, maybe maybe. I don't particularly, the money is not what's important to me as much as getting the information. So I want to perfect the clone better. But I've had people say it could be like a subscription to a lot of different services people have.
Sure.
Level 1, level 2.
It seems like something that would be nice if a vast number of people could access it. So that if it wasn't prohibitively expensive, that would be maybe kind of not to tell you how to do your job.
Yeah.
You said it's you, though.
It is me. So
is it like a real, is it really you, or is it like a Minecraft variation blockhead?
No, it's my avatar. So I spent a whole 2 days just doing nonverbal eye contact, facial expressions, smiling. So at first the clone was like, ask John, and then it gave you an answer verbally or even written with all the sources you could follow up with. But now Delphi has just the avatar. So, but it's actually me. I mean, when you look at it, people have said, it's the way you talk, it's the way you express things.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
cool.
So I like AI. This book I'm writing right now, I'm using AI, ChatGPT and AI just to frame the ideas. I tend to be a person who likes to write the book by talking it. So I'll talk it into ChatGPT, put it into Scribbler AI, put the stories together in the book, and then edit. Those are not my words. And so I'm writing the book almost exclusively through, they're all my thoughts, but through AI.
It really keeps your creative juices moving when you have that tool.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about, you were mentioning before the show that you were out in Austin, Texas, I believe you said, sharing a little bit about the book.
Yeah.
What were some of the key characteristics from that talk, and what was your feedback? Because that was one of the first times you trotted out the book, right?
Yeah, no, I worked with Meta last year and did a whole big thing for their sales group, and then this is one that they expanded it with all North America. It was mainly with Leading with Heart. They all bought the book. So I did 2 segments on Leading with Heart, trust, transparency, building cultures of heart, etc. But the last segment was on the war room, creating a war room model using the military analogy. The military is an interesting group to look at because they lead with heart. The hill they're climbing is clear. The roles are there. They support each other. It's like the general gets into the trenches, Alex, right? It's like, so I actually talked about Masterclass. And Masterclass, I won't go into the details of this one because it's not published yet, and Masterclass hasn't approved this example, but we used kind of a modified war room model to do a reset at Masterclass. So I talked about that, and the response was really, really powerful. Meta's going through, it's considered to be in general kind of a softer culture in the sense that people are treated as individuals. They hire good people and they let them go. There's a lot of independence to go off and do what they need to do. A little laissez-faire, but it's become a little more top-down. And so you've got people that are kind of pushing back on that. I mean, I used to have freedom, and now you're telling me I've got to make these kinds of things done. I got to put this stuff in the system. I got to account for this, et cetera, et cetera. So the conversation that the war room model created was really dynamic. They actually kind of like that section, Brian, probably as well as any of them.
Interesting. So unpack that a little bit. Like when you say war room, if you're in M&A, you know exactly what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
You got, you're going through an exit or you're a sale. We have that. Are you talking about something similar?
I'm talking about like a company is having a bad quarter, and the investors are saying, "Oh my God, this is like we had no idea it was this way. We need a major reset." It's like you may have times, Alex, with your company that you have to bring people together and say it's not working, whatever. It's a war room framework which has a cadence, a regularity, a weekly accountability check, key leaders. It drives urgency and change. And tough leaders have lots of war rooms.
And so you're where you begin is you identifying problems. I mean, you talk a little bit about this in Leading with Heart. And so you're now bringing to the table consistently problems, doing the left-hand, right-hand thing, among other things. But you're really putting everything on table so that we can, as a company, move forward with this. Is that what I'm hearing?
But it's not long-term. it's really more short term. It's daily. I mean, what happens in a lot of companies, we talk about these things, but maybe monthly, weekly, quarterly, whatever. It's truly an urgent focus on changing something and moving towards a very quantifiable, measurable goal.
But it sounds like to me, there has to be problems in the room.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's almost like everything needs to be stress test.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, the devil's advocate isn't welcome in the room, and they're just viewed as combative. But you're saying, no, the war room needs that voice to stress test everything in order to get us beyond the sticking point. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. Yeah. There are certain characteristics of a war room, and I think in companies, particularly with markets and tightness and risk and financial instability, oftentimes we have to course correct faster. So the book is called Tough Enough, and it's really about ways to do that, using models of companies that have done that effectively with heart. The military has huge heart. I mean, they care. There's support for each other. So the military model.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like these big companies and big leaders, like obviously a lot of things are changing within the companies, but sometimes you see big changes in leaders' lives.
Yeah.
So like a couple of examples, like Mark, for example, with Meta.
Yeah.
Like he's going through a crazy transition.
Oh, I know.
Where he's like this one person,
the person there is
super
now,
soft, and now he's like this like badass
That's
in a
some
way,
of the
gold
soft
chain,
versus
doing
yes.
MMA with the big boys.
I know.
It's pretty cool to witness.
It is.
And then how do you think that affects, the company and the culture? Do you think it like bleeds down? It kind of have to, right?
Oh, it does bleed down. Yeah. I mean, I think it does. And I think they're figuring that out. When Steve Jobs came back, he reinvented the new Apple. The old Apple was rather soft in some ways. Apple at that time was not doing well. He came back and reset Apple financially in a huge, big way. And a lot of it was his model. So I think Mark's going to have to figure all that out. And who knows about the leadership, and will he be the one to continue to lead the company forever? I mean, I'm a great believer that some leaders are good for certain stages of companies.
Yeah, you talked a lot about that in your first book about oftentimes the founder isn't the best CEO at a different stage.
Yes.
And so tie that into the war room, if the CEO is a problem. When should a founder or when should a company have these war rooms? Should they have it when they're on the napkin? Could they only do it, in early stages? Or is this something more suited towards larger companies?
That's a good question. I think founders in the early stage with product market fit are always in the war room in a way. They're like mini war rooms. This concept is when the company scales, gets a little bit larger, there's more people. We're not sure that people are doing the right things, are they in the right roles? Do we need this functional group over here? Lots of times there's a reorganization or reset. We don't, we're moving in this direction. Do we really need these people? So that reset, I think, Brian, becomes part of the war room. So, but it's a concept I'm finding really successful because you have to lead with clarity of purpose, direction, focus, roles, and heart, all at one time.
Yeah, and if I can identify this, I mean, I'm a lot of our audience are early stage startups. I think you can have a variation of this in early stage. I mean, you see it actually in marriages. They say, hey, on Sunday night, we'll get together. Anything that hasn't been resolved, we'll talk about that. That's kind of our moment to kind of make sure that moving forward, we're okay. So when there is a lot of turbulence in the early stages with launching, I think there's a variation of this to kind of prioritize how are you moving forward, because it feels like that startups are always in crisis mode. They're always trying to figure out how they're going to breathe today. But you don't want the founder to be in crisis mode. The company could be in crisis mode, but you don't want the founder or the leader to be in crisis mode, because then they get tunnel vision. They don't see the resource or the pivot necessary in that moment. So I don't know, Alex, have you, let's play with this concept of creating the war room mentality in the early stages. I mean, you've been locked on to John since we started here, listening to every one of his words. How could we as early stage startups utilize this concept of addressing problems before it just becomes out of control?
Well, I feel like that's all you do. like in this stage, right?
Yeah.
We're early. I mean, we're getting to a somewhat mature level. We have 180 employees already. We raised 5.5 million, and we're about to raise another 10. And ultimately, every day is just a war room. I mean, there's constant problems, whether it's marketing, whether it's dealing with our restaurant partners that are live and using the system, having questions or needing support, whether it's go-to-market strategy, whether it's fundraising, whether it's the product. Like there's so many layers, or people problems.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you're dealing with 180 people, there's problems. There's
That's part of the
things that
war room
happen.
conversation.
Yeah.
The talent, the people.
100%.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's the hardest part, right? Because like as you try to hire all these amazing people, of course, but then there's always going to be conflict within the team. And you have to make tough decisions often. And I can bring that back and relate to my restaurant experience last, 10 years opening and running all these restaurants and bars and nightclubs and whatnot. I mean, in 10 years, I had a flooding, a fire, 3 8-day lawsuits, class action lawsuit, labor commission boards. Like, I mean, I've hired probably 1,000 people, and like people come and go because like they move, they can't afford to live here. I feel like I was a very nice, probably too nice of a boss the first 5 years. And I had to learn to harden up a little bit and keep a little bit more distance and be more professional. But ultimately, it's war room, every day.
Yeah, it sounds like war room every day.
The thing you left off that list, Alex, was global pandemic.
Global pandemic.
Right. That was in there. And boy, has that affected this generation, too, in so many different ways. It's interesting, the war room. I mean, did you have certain norms that were part of the war room? It's like, how do you conduct a productive war room? I haven't written that chapter yet. I mean, the chapter has been framed with the publishers before we got the contract with the book, and they love the concept. And I've been talking about it a lot, kind of, Brian, with you right now as well. But I mean, what are the qualities that make for a good war room from your experience?
I think what I said earlier is that everyone feels like they can speak and can be heard, and that a best idea wins. For me, those are the keys to make sure that those important conversations are productive.
Yeah, that's a huge one. I also think there's something in Tough Enough, we talk about the fact that there's a lot of research to suggest that the most effective leaders are not well liked. There's no correlation in the research literature between likability and leadership. So part of Tough Enough with Care is really about the notion of hearing people, letting people voice their idea, but letting them know, and this is the empathy part, Brian, that if you've let people know that you've heard them, understood them, I call it the 5-minute empathy rule. Can you for 5 minutes actually say, Alex, say more about that? So why did that come about? Or can you give me an example so I can understand it? That's really interesting. That must have been hard. So you empathize for 5 minutes and then say, I get all that. We're not going there. We're not going there as a company. So I find leadership is about hearing, listening, but also being clear of what you're not going to do. This group of leaders that I've coached a lot, it's like they want to please, they want to enable. I call it in the book, the trophy generation, the group of everybody who wants to be liked and accepted, and we've enabled them in so many different ways.
Everyone gets a prize.
Everybody gets a prize. As a result, there's more mental illness among the younger generation. They're more troubled by things, higher levels of anxiety, and they're conflict adverse. They find it really difficult to handle negative feedback. If a crisis occurs, sometimes they crumble. They haven't experienced adversity. We've actually protected a lot of young people from adversity. So I work through when a client is going through adversity just to talk about, you can do this. When have you done that before? How can we give a good example of where you've rallied through that in some way? But it's hard to rally through adversity if you haven't experienced it yourself.
I'm hearing an element here. You're talking about in this war room, leading and giving permission to be vulnerable. I love the 5-minute empathy. You call it the 5-minute empathy rule. Am I butchering that?
It's a wait. You wait to make judgments or a comment until you've really heard the person.
Yeah.
So there's satisfaction.
But that could be like, you start asking those questions of an employee who hasn't felt like they're heard.
Yeah.
It's almost like oxygen. And then Alex talked about, he learned about hardening up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I think sometimes we can go too far with that, where we shut down. But there's almost like there's this balance of vulnerability, boundaries. Vulnerability, boundaries. It's not shutting down the vulnerability and becoming hard. It's just being appropriate with the boundaries. And so if you're in a war room, how do you, it sounds like this is where the contrast must be. Like, we need to ask more about this, give people that space, but at the same time, you can't be offended when you say, okay, now there needs to be a boundary here, and we can't just go let this ride on out.
I think you create the boundaries by framing the problem to solve. In the military, it's really clear that this is where we want to go. And these are the parameters. And these are the non-negotiables. I wish leaders would say, rather than leading people to believe their input will count, right? It's like, I want your opinion. And then people will say, oh, well, I gave my opinion, but you didn't do anything about it, right? You led me to believe that my ideas would count. To frame it, to be able to say, here's the problem to solve, here's the parameters, it has to be within this financial sort of boundary. It's your boundary thing.
Yeah.
It has to be done with this within this time frame. And it has to be done with these people. And so create the boundaries to the problem to solve, and then let people come up with those solutions.
I really love hearing you say that, because I feel like that is one thing I do really well as a leader.
Yes.
So I say something like, hey, this is my vision, this is what I want, this are, kind of how I see it, but I don't want to tell you how to do it, because I really want you to have the freedom and flexibility.
Yeah.
But now you kind of know where I'm going with this.
Yes.
Go ahead, work on it, and then we'll sit down and work through it together.
Yeah.
And that works extremely well for me, because now they feel empowered, excited, but they also have the North Star, and maybe even some steps how to get to the North Star. So by the time we sit down, it's not two completely different things. Then I need to be like, you're missing the mark completely. That's not what I'd said. So I do agree with everything.
Well, that's the contrast as well. You give them the creative, the freedom. At the same time, you give them the structure. Look, we need to get here. Please tell me how you're going to do that. It's almost like in your example, John, if you ask somebody, hey, tell me more about that, and they start going on and on and on, you can come back to now the structure of like, how is this getting to a solve for you or solve for us? Because if you just let people go and go, then they lose their North Star, and now there's no direction, and it can become disorienting. I know we only got a few more minutes left. Alex, I want to ask you, you got the 29th coming up, you've got things evolving. I want you to kind of summarize that for our audience on what you got going on, and kind of let them know how they can engage with you.
Sure. We just launched our website, so that's been a huge project, like 90 days every day working on it, getting to a place where we can release it. So that's been big. So
and what
AIOapp.com. So AIO all in one app.com.
There's no AI in that.
There is a lot of AI. So we got lucky, honestly, because the real purpose of the brand name, the IO, that's their logo.
I like that.
It's AIO, but we also AI operations, which is what we do. So we leverage all these different new AI technologies to streamline the restaurant's operations, from creating the schedule with AI, creating marketing campaigns with AI, helping them reconcile their books with AI. There's just like in every segment of the whole technological suite that we provide for restaurant owners now in one platform.
Boy, you should talk to DoorDash.
I actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I would love to connect with Tony.
That is a natural, because they're so into empowering their restaurants. So, that whole product.
It's amazing.
Yeah, we should talk.
Yeah, we should, absolutely.
All right, we've made a connection here on Silicon Valley
exactly,
Impact. Alex, how can
exactly.
people connect with you? And again, a little bit more about the 29th so that people can engage with you.
We have our big pre-launch event. We have 50-ish VCs signed up. We have, some restaurant owners that are coming out to see it for the first time. We have some of the people that have been involved with the project coming, and we're going to have some great food and cocktails. We're going to have a panel with David Fogno. It's a local guy here in Los Gatos. He was the CFO for Qualtrics. Now he's the CEO for 1Password in Toronto. They're about to go public. And then Gary, of course I'm blanking on his name, Vice President of NVIDIA. Anyways, so a couple of very high profile people.
NVIDIA VP.
Yeah, NVIDIA VP, exactly. Gary Hickok, sorry. So they will be on a panel. We also have a second panel with the more restaurant focused experts. And then me and C are going to do a product demo showing the website, the product, and then announcing that we're raising a seed round.
Nice. And who's moderating that panel?
The one and only Brian.
Brian. Oh my gosh.
Shame he's blowing my mind.
Plus.
So how can people connect with you real quick?
Probably my email, alex@ioapp.com.
Wonderful.
Probably the easiest.
And John, wrapping up real quick, how can people connect with you and what's next for you?
I think LinkedIn. You can find my profile on LinkedIn or John at velocitycoaching.com or John at Executive Edge or edgemancoaching.com. Either one of those. Next for me is just settling into San Jose State, writing the book, getting the clone sort of in the right place, transitioning my clients in the right way
I'll be
to the
happy
right coaches.
to try it out.
Yeah. I don't think you've seen it either.
No, I haven't.
No,
I'm curious about it. And of course, we'll let our audience know how to engage with that. But I want to encourage them to check out Leading with Heart on Amazon. It is a bestseller. And I'm so proud of you. I mean, you've been one of the closest people in my life all these years. I want to thank you for being here. Alex, you're amazing. Instant best friend since last year. You're doing amazing. I wish this was an hour-long show. Or it is an hour long, 2 hours long.
It is an hour long show, Brian.
It goes so quick. Thanks for the reminder.
Stay here. We'll just
We can just go, And Alex, I really enjoyed meeting you too.
Yeah,
It
very
was
much so. I would
great.
love to
love
catch
your
up.
product and your idea.
And
too.
John, when is your book expected to launch, your new book?
It's with Hachette Publishing, New Books, New World Books, and it's fall of early 2026. End of 2025, early 2026. Yeah.
Nice. And Brian,
Yes, sir.
We've got one season in the books. I'm so proud to be partnered with you, Silicon
Season
Valley.
2.
Season 2, buddy.
Wow.
Yeah, man, it's really exciting. We got a lot of good stuff to come, and we've accomplished so much. And I know only people that are hearing this are listening, but tell your friends. There's just an amazing volume of content on this show. So go back and listen to previous shows because we have so much rich insight into what's happening in Silicon Valley. Great minds like the ones here on the set today. Brian Sparks, of course, and so much more.
Yeah, and we got a lot of touch points. We have the newsletter coming out. We have the Venture House that'll have all our guests showing up to participate. But thank you both for being here.
I want to say one more thing just to all the founders listening. I didn't have any experience doing tech startups. And plugging into your network and Bill Berry and a couple of others has been tremendously powerful for me. And I encourage all of them to follow the work and stuff that you guys do. So thank you for that, Brian.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you all next week. Stay safe. See you soon.